of the day. We'll have to see, though. I don't think Kimchi jjigae are going to go down that easily, but first things first, we've got to look at, we talked about the fact that Dry Arabia in a team game is a very open thing. It doesn't really feel like Dry Arabia, at least what we're used to. We'll have to see if that can favor some opportunities to punish potential greed, or maybe if something like the Chinese and the English look at this generation and say, oh, this is actually a free one for us to boom up in.
You know, looking at the player positionings, we're gonna have State with the Ottomans on the right flank matched up against Kasva's French. So the stage is set for Dark Age aggression on that gold mine. On the opposing side, Vam is gonna be in command of the English with Dark Age aggression coming up against Leenock's Rus. Now, what could he possibly accomplish against a Rus player here? Probably not much. So pressure is likely gonna be redirected towards SortOf's gold mine.
Like, you could potentially build a few Lombos and you just bounce back and forth between SortOf and Leenock space. Alternatively, you literally just could try to be greedy yourself. Maybe, like, you're going for a fast castle timing. It's kind of a weird one. Like, if you had to weigh it up, like, who would you rather rush Castle Age? Like, a Chinese player or an English player? Because I feel like in these team game comps, maybe the English just get more bang for buck out of Longbows than you can get out of Jjigae Nu.
I feel like if you're rushing Castle with Chinese, you're thinking Palace Guards. I don't think we're talking Jjigae Nu. So
oh no, I'm talking like but like you have to think about it the other way. Like, it's okay. So if I'm the Chinese player, but I'm not getting to rush Castle, I'm staying feudal. I'm building Jjigae Nu, right? Like, that's the number one choice. True. So like, you're then saying, do Lombos or Jjigae Nu offer me more, right? And then, like, off the back of that, you can choose the other one to go for Castle Age, whether it's the English going into Castle for Knights or the Chinese going to Castle Age for Palace Guard.
It comes down to escalation potential, because if you look at, let's say, a Chinese player getting to Castle and English players standing with Feudal Age, you still have the Council Hall mass-producing longbows, so you can put your resource on the playing field pretty fast. Same thing with the Chinese supervising the barracks for the production of the Palace Guards. Yes. And on the other side, if you go Castle with the English, your escalation is going to be much slower because you have no means of accelerating your production. Well, unless you go longbows, but it feels very much lackluster to go for longbows in Castle, if you fast Castle with English at least.
Like, the thought process is like when you go Castle as the English, you're getting second TC, right? So that's not too bad, and then you're getting better gathering rates on your farm. So there is decent bang for buck there. And then you can argue like a Chinese player staying in feudal longer isn't as harmful because they'll have probably Song Dynasty, right? They'll probably have free TC effective. It's just a case of whether that's too much greed here. You know, I think Kasva's role is to just be that absolute leviathan of pressure and annoyance in the other game. But I love what this opening, Wham is trying to do that too. Men-at-Arms taking the field, and he's looking for any opportunity to be a pain in the ass.
Yeah, he's going to target the opposite player. Now, depending on what the exact idea is over here for SortOf, this could be either very devastating or this could be completely useless. If he wants to go for a second TC and this gets spotted, then this could actually be a pretty useful Man-at-Arms. Otherwise, it's not really doing much right now. You see, Economy Wing is already on the way. Question mark is whether we can squeeze in fresh foodstuffs for SortOf. Did he have enough gold for that?
I think it would have, like, I imagine with one villager on there, I would expect him to have got enough together. It feels like he was kind of passively chilling, so yeah, enough there. By the way, Wham was suspicious that he was going to go for that second TC play. He had a second Man-at-Arms on the left side, checking for the stone outcropping, but he ran past. So might not come back in time to spot it.
Yeah, now he's looking at the berries. At one point, he's going to have to go back because he's checking for villagers. And if he doesn't see villagers on the gold, and he doesn't even see villagers on the berries, where could they possibly be? Wood or stone? And if you have a bunch of villagers on wood, that's already, to a certain extent, telling you, hey, there could be a second DC coming.
This choice by Kasva, just stared down the one annoying spearman that's come to greet you for the day. State. Of course, that was passive generation, right? He hasn't gone for the racks, he's just pushing these out of a military school, so any idle time achieved is still worthwhile for the Ottoman player.
Yeah, looks like 4... let's take a look at the bounty, actually, because that's the interesting element here for Leenock's gameplay. He's been pretty active collecting Hunt, and this map has quite a lot, being a 3v3 map. If he has gotten to like 500 to 600, then it's a pretty decent amount to go to Castle Age, but 475, nothing to be ashamed of. Needs exactly 2 trades to get to Castle, but still not the most amazing amount of bounty that I've ever seen.
I think there's still some left on the field, right? Like, there should be in this situation.
Yeah,
he built 3, so he has 3 scouts total, so he built 2 additional, and his opponents didn't build additional scouts whatsoever. So, like, should be a good opportunity to yoink up some more.
Now, if you're Leenock, are you considering pro scouts right now? Not much pressure on the opposing team in terms of map control. You could definitely do like a proxy sling to the Chinese player, maybe with some food delivery.
You mean to the Abbasid player, right?
I was thinking Chinese even. And then you just supervise the drop-off point.
So who do you want to do this link? You want Kasva, the French, to do this link?
No, I'm talking Leenock when it comes to professional scouts with the Rus instead of Kasva.
Yeah. So you're saying, so give it to sort of or state, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so give it to the Abbasid, the Ottomans. I'd say like you could do that for the Abbasid player. Like I don't think Abbasids necessarily need the extra food here. If you want, like the most value you can get in this game is if like someone can pro scouts for the Chinese, right? Like the extra 20% is going to be gorgeous, but your choice is what? A French player or an English player? Well, French player has to spend all of his gold on knights early on, and an English player picks up, like he gets pro scouts, he picks up a carcass. It's like, why have I done this? Like this just feels wrong. Can I just refund it and build more farms?
Looks like all Leenock is gonna do for the time being is just get himself some weapon emplacements. And what do we got over here? Stone being mined very heavily by Puppy Paw. It's gonna be a greedy Chinese play. It's not gonna be that fast castle. Could easily be 2TC Song Dynasty. In fact, it's already Song Dynasty for him. He is aged up with the Imperial Academy, and now he's got the Barbican. So they seem to spot their opponents being greedy, or at least playing a slower paced game, will respond in kind.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like if you see your opponents want to have this later game, this greedy kind of element to it, and you're playing English plus Chinese, you're smiling.
But... Oh, you're smiling if you look at this too. Boar getting denied. Knight is now in action.
I mean, that was ambitious. Like you can just tell. Just look how far away Leenock had to run to go home. To make that play is bold up against English and French, and appropriately so. He does get punished for it.
Yeah, ironically, it was Ram with the English who spotted this, not even Kaz with the high mobility Knights. But still, as you said, it was overly ambitious out there against French Knights. Will get spotted. At least he gets the bounty for the board, but that's all that he's getting out of there. And I'm wondering what his backup plan is when it comes to food.
There are deer to the east side of his base, but as we can see, those deer not so accessible, as that's where we're looking right now. So
that's the problem.
Maybe Pro Scout's looking a bit more sexy just for Leenock for himself at this rate. But even then, like the reason we don't see Pro Scouts, let's say you build it, you walk out in the field, like you're gonna get sniped walking back by these knights. It's just, it's why like I very strongly believe like if you want to do Pro Scouts, either you're French, you have map control already, or you're playing Malians and you can move faster and defend yourself.
Or you yoink carcasses that are not easily scouted or not really scouted by your opponent at the very beginning. It's only a handful of knights, so you could possibly kind of sneak away with a couple of carcasses. But it's probably too late now. We are talking enough knights that can shut down most of these things. And the map presence is massive right now for Vam's team. Whereas on the other side, we got a greedy Abbasid player. But right now I feel that Kasva and Vam are just putting so much more on the playing field. And we could easily enter the state where the Abbasid greed is counteracted by the Chinese greed. But the French and English aggression is gonna be so much better than what the Rus and the Ottomans have on the playing field right now.
Yeah, like it's just, you know, you as the Ottoman and Rus player are going to have to participate, right? More and more it feels like. So like you just get to this stage where you're looking and going, okay, so if it's the Abbasid player and the Chinese player booming, who gets better value? You know, we already mentioned Chinese feels like a better Abbasids when it comes to greed at least. It's a difficult one. It's a really difficult one to like wiggle your way out of. And you can now see the reaction that they have to take. SortOf has to invest as well. Everyone is going to have to invest on the side of Kimchi jjigae. And even then, like the 1-2 punch of French plus English could combat you initially long enough that Puppy Paw could probably reach Castle Age.
Yeah, this is getting increasingly worrisome for Leenock's team. In fact, so much so that we didn't even talk about the top of the screen balance bars. It is already a 20-ish villager lead or eco lead overall for Puppy Paw's team.
I mean, he's at free
at
TCs, right?
9.
Yeah, he's at free TCs. That's the part. Like we've been having discussions. Like I think everyone's having a discussion at the moment. Like how absurd this is. Like there's no other civ that can get this many villagers. Like it's China. This is all China.
Yeah, what are you gonna do when a fully boomed Chinese player arrives? It could very well be Lancers even, because you simply won't be able to match their numbers. It's gonna be a fully boomed player. And behind this, you even have some support from Kasva and Vam. Castle Age getting close for Puppy Paw as well. Yeah. I don't want to sound grim, but I feel like window to win this game, or to have a real shot at this, is possibly already closing for Leenock's team at minute 10.
Yeah, I don't want to sound grim, but right now, Free Beavers are looking like the Reaper. Like, they're just gonna, they're gonna wait, and they're gonna come out, and they're gonna collect your souls. I mean, you can see Poppypool, like you mentioned, getting close to the castle age. Wham now wall himself in, insulating himself with the farms. He could be in castle age in the next few minutes. And Kasva, in the meantime, will just stay here longer.
Yes.
Because Knights are good enough to keep your opponents pinned in. Make no mistake about it. Like, if Kimchi jjigae want to try and write their own destiny here, they need to get out on the field and do some damage. They can't just sit at home and try to now go for their timings.
It's difficult, though, because you only have 2 players with meaningful armies. In fact, less than that. It's only 5 Knights right now for Leenock. He chooses to go to Castle Age himself. He's gonna have the Abbey, but how much map control he has? Not much. He might be able to sneak in 1 or 2 relics, but his Castle Age is gonna be substantially less impactful than what we're gonna have from Puppy.
I mean, the Abbey Trinity. It's nice if you can get out on the field and pick up some goodies. Like, right now, the redeeming quality they have is State's army. Like, State has a decent army here. This can do some damage. But he needs to be out of position for a fight. And one of the issues is even with that extra meta movement speed, you know, you're still playing a static comp up against these Knights that are essentially forcing you to run around in your teammates' bases, putting out fires.
Yeah, exactly. And fires will intensify very soon as Puppypool reaches Castle Age. Palace Guards will make a debut, so at this point, State's archers will become next to obsolete, even with the buff of the Matter. That army could be cleaned up in a blink of an eye, and then what I would love to see from Puppypaw is riding this momentum, sending some villagers to stone and saying, okay, I'm going to start going Palace Guards, and in 3 minutes time, I want to be ready to drop a keep if we have momentum to accomplish that with.
I mean, honestly, right now, I think State, this move is good. He just needs to snipe as much as possible, slow down Kasva. Because if Kasva catches up after the other 2 have had their greed, like, this is going to be an insurmountable lead. And he definitely has the numbers in favor of him. Right now, it generally feels like Kasva needs some assistance. Now, Wham does have an army that can come to assist if it wasn't busy diving into SortOf's base on the backside between the 2 players. He finds them out in the deer, he pushes them away, but he can't catch anything with such a slow-moving army.
I think this is better value. You are hitting the booming player on the opposing side. You're hitting the opposite player. If they are trading players, if you sacrifice Kasva, but you do tremendous damage to SortOf, that's good value for Puppy and Wham. So,
most definitely.
At this point, it might be just, okay,
God,
base trade scenario.
So what are we doing here? It's Berry Madness hour right now. Wraparound's going to come in. Lombos need to trade out what they can. Knights need to get out. And instead, SortOf, it looked like it was a dire circumstance for the villagers, but instead, he dangles them as bait and forces the commitment. A commitment that actually works out brilliantly for Free Beavers. SortOf bit off more than he could chew.
And now the villagers are exposed, and this is what I was talking about. It doesn't matter how much damage Kasva takes if you can equal that damage out to what SortOf takes now. It looks like villagers have been evacuated, but still tremendous idle time out there. And don't forget, behind this, Puppypaw is up to 21 Palace Guards at minute 13. And just look at that top left number increase. He's gonna be at 50 in about a minute's time.
And that was a brilliant pivot by Wham. He just clustered his spears and longbows together. He baits his opponent in, and they just impale themselves on the spears. Great hold coming out. Great micro from Kasva as well to dodge out potential death there with the spears pushing in on him. And all of a sudden, these villagers, sure, they didn't all get massacred, but they've been running a lap. They're idle. They're essentially not working for you. I think SortOf has moved them west of where that engagement was, and they're now walling themselves into what might be their tomb.
Yeah, I think the Knights may have even found them. You gotta be cautious here. This army is gonna get cleaned up, but this is just bittersweet. At this point, you're more than happy. Oh no!
Oh my god, Leenock's here as well! They found, okay, sure, we don't get to kill orange villagers, but what about the yellow ones? Are they free game? They say, yes, go for it. Wham's gonna snipe a few out. Sure, you'll clean up this army, but like you mentioned, like, State had to come here. State had to babysit. So where is State not right now? He's not harassing Kasva. He's not preventing Wham from teching up. He's essentially been forced to forfeit all the ground he gained, and now the side with the greedier, more efficient late game civs get to that late game.
Exactly. They managed to get the opponents to pull all their armies to the south, and now they don't have much to stop this Palace Guard push with on the north. Behind this one, Wham is also in Castle Age. He's gonna have the second Townsender rolling. If he wants to switch into a different unit now, he can go for it. He won't even be very disappointed about losing that leftover Feudal Age army. But looks like he's just gonna stick with the same composition because Leenock on the left side is playing exclusively Knights. You can now play a proxy 1v1 over here. Longbows and Spearmen, because you know that SortOf and State will have to focus on the right side where the Palace Guards are.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, at this stage, Prizepool could just flood into all 3 players' base at this rate. He's close to 40 Palace Guard, and it's going to be more after that. Remember, Wham hasn't revealed his new hand yet. He teched up. Maybe he's thinking of just making the 1-2 jump into Imperial. They potentially could get away with that level of greed, especially if Prizepool gets a premium castle drop, which is what he's playing for now.
Yeah, I love this. I love that he's not just making Palace Guards. He has momentum, ride it. Bring in the villagers and make sure that this game does not reach the 17-minute mark. That's exactly what he's doing. Bit of an overcautious castle over here, but it's on a stone mine, so this is just a setup. It's a staging ground for a future keep. He's going to take the stone. He actually dives into what is a substantially larger army. Uh-oh. This would be scary.
That's a wraparound. Well, he's got enough villages. I think he should be able to complete this, but it's going to cost him dearly, especially if they're not micros correctly. Wall load of reinforcements. He cancelled out, but this villagers, I mean, this is going to be tight. I think he's going to be left on 98% and not done. Last villager goes down, and he gets pipped at the post.
He may have gotten a little too bloodthirsty out there because archers at the buff of the matter also doing a decent job, as good as it gets, to holding off those Palace Guards. Now, make no mistake, folks, there is a next wave behind this. Still 27 Palace Guards on the playing field. Matter also goes down here to the Palace Guards. That keep is going to get finished eventually. Still, though.
Eventually.
I mean...
But let's be real. Like, this is 3 players taking on 1 right now,
yes.
Lidakor. We can't deny that detail. Like, this is just Prizepool and, like, 5 French Knights.
The fact that this keep still goes up and Puppy still has, like, 20 Palace Guards in the playing field just tells you how big of a lead they are having. It's 70 eco, pretty considerable army quality lead as well. There's going to be Castle Age for State's team, but how are they going to use that to stop this immediate threat with?
Honestly, it's one of those tough ones. They need to group together and push in, probably towards Kasva. Problem is they don't really know what Kasva's doing. If you look in Kasva's base, you may notice something that reads like greedy on the map. Yes. He built 2 additional TCs. Like, he's booming up now. He stopped producing knights in vast quantities. This would be the time to go. But guys, I'm gonna let you know about something. We have God vision here. We had the bird's eye view. Have a look and see what Kimchi jjigae cannot see here.
Well, they can't see much overall. They just don't know what Kasva is doing. And I love this incremental strategy from Wham, Papi, and Kasva. Papi goes into castle. He's going to be the tempo setter of the Palace Guards. This means that they are the aggressors. Opponents have to be occupied with those Palace Guards. This sets up Wham to go into castle. Wham reaches Castle Age himself, becomes the aggressor at Leenock space. Prizepool still rolling, allows Kasva to now go greedy. And this is just going to allow Kasva to come online much sooner than anticipated by the Kimchi jjigae enjoyers.
Oh, good lord, and Prizepool, just as quickly as he loses it, he quickly rebooms those Palace Guard lines, and maybe next time the SCBs will be there. We're also seeing Spears and Archer counts starting to increase for Wham. Given the pace, I wouldn't be surprised if he's hoarding slowly towards Imperial himself, and he's tempted to make the dive. But for now, the only thing he's going to be diving in towards is Leenock's base, because I believe Leenock had to bring the army north side.
Leenock brings all the knights out there, all 18 of them. Decent value you're getting out of those. Palace Guards will be forced to chase. But while you're at it, your own base is gonna get steamrolled, or is it? Where's the army at from Wham, though? Bit of a lackluster army, I must say.
Yeah,
90 spearmen, 12 longbows.
It's why I keep thinking he's trying to save for Imperial Age, so I just keep looking at the numbers, and it just doesn't make sense for the stage of the game. It does feel like a slow escalation, but Knights are gonna be a nuisance. Finally, they'll get the info that, oh, looks like Kaz is being greedy. They'll try to shut him down a little bit, but unless they can keep wave after wave going, it's not going to be good enough. Second wave is breaking through. State is looking to make his way into the base, but remember, that's an Archibald. Not very effective against what he's going to find on the other side.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if there's a matter buffing it, and that's going to be a difference maker as well. Still, though, as you said, it's puzzling how Wham has so little army, yet he's not in Imperial. He's definitely thinking something behind this, but right now, part of the reason why they're getting pushed back is because Wham doesn't have a gigantic army on the playing field. Neither does Kasva, but Kasva was kind of the sacrificial animal of this game so far.
An unstoppable animal is actually the Poppy in this one. I mean, the Palace Guard just seem to be everywhere, counter out the raids. Wham is, at least with his smaller army, finding some raid deep in to try and shut down any extensions out of SortOf Leenock. And although he's not finding bang for buck right now. One thing we have to remember is if he keeps flirting himself around the front of the base like this, he'll eventually kill Eco. Because so far, SortOf and Leenock have been exhausting that southern corner. They need to. Once that's gone, they have to come out and play, and they are not going to like what they find. Because it's going to be a keep drop coming from Wham, as well as a proxy base on the way.
That's going to be dirty. It's going to allow for the network of citadels to be set up. Question is, what does SortOf have on that side? Because it's very possible they may not even spot this in time. There is a small group of units out there for SortOf. If he stops that keep, they could very well find themselves back in this game. So you got to be cautious here if you're Kasva's team. Remember, Kasva's still feudal age, only 12 knights on the playing field.
It starts to make a little bit more sense of Wham's economy as well. So the 800 stone kind of adds up in my brain now, and you can see the men-at-arms count is escalating fast here, so it's going to be a problem that needs to be addressed. Knight count is also away from home. Leenock really doesn't have anything to defend in his own base because he sent everything into his enemy's economy lines.
Yeah, he needs to. They need to find eco damage. They're down by 100 eco. Military numbers are still looking decent, but you need to find a way to slow down Puppy. You need to find a way to do some damage out there. And now the question becomes, is Leenock aware of that keep being built? Does he see it?
Yeah, and
now he will.
Treb's coming. Looks like he's going to push out towards the point. Remember, as long as it's being built up, it creates a choke point, so hard to wrap around. Villages are somewhat exposed, though. He has got the aura as well from the nearby outpost, so it doesn't look like he's going to be too threatened to take a fight here as the clash will commence. Knights are going to be forced around north side, always mirrored by those spears, never able to access the villagers. Looks like Wham should be able to continue the construct. State. Wait, are those villagers?
Could be a kamikaze keep. No way.
No, they're archers. They're archers. They look kind of weird from certain angles there. I was kind of thrown off for a second there until the glory aura came in, but that's still a keep up. They couldn't prevent it at all. Wham defend against multiple players. Also behind this, Kasva is now taking up the Royal Institute. And make no mistake about it, by the time he arrives, he could easily have 25 knights ready to be buffed up with the Royal Bloodlines.
For sure. And don't forget that Wham right now, he's flooding infantry, but he's playing positional warfare more than, let's say, unit flood warfare. So he could easily consider slinging some resources to Kasva so they can really amp up that knight production and build on that Royal Bloodlines upgrade. Or we could even see Puppy Paw slinging some resources to Kasva, kind of giving the driver's seat now to Kasva.
That's true. That Prime Army can be overwhelming, hard to deal with. Well, these knights have been hard to deal with. Leenock continues to just prowl around, finding reasonable value as he'll make his way towards Wham's base now, but a few spears are going to make it a little bit more difficult. I think Wham, he isn't thinking about being a greedy boy, is he? I think it's just that he's now producing his whole army in the proxy base, so he doesn't have this Congo line of spears to intercept.
Yeah, he's also switching heavily into men-at-arms.
Oh, no, that's not the way you want to begin the fight.
Not at all. That's
he
terrible.
lost the meta straight away. I mean, he's going to lose the whole army, and there's no one here to defend. Remember, Leenock, he went for a full dynamic comp. His teammates are meant to defend him while he raids the enemy. That's just not happening right now.
And once again, look at that escalation. Even if they repel this push, which it seems like they might be able to accomplish, there's going to be a push on the right side, but above all, Spirit Way now coming in for Puppy Paw. Once again, Wham and Kasva amp up the pressure. They become the aggressors, shielding Puppy Paw from anything, letting him go into Imperial. And honestly, Wham is doing such a terrific job on the left side as well with this push. It by itself might be enough to finish this game.
I mean, they've been back and forth this kind of feeling, right? Earlier on, we saw Puppy Paw fighting 3 players. Now we see Wham fighting 3 players, but that aura shows you just how powerful it can be at this stage of the game. And as soon as I mentioned Puppy Paw's name, he was already starting to push forward into the base of State, taking him out of the equation. Now behind this, Puppy Paw is trying to contribute more. So we are going to see a switch now into the Fire Lancers, a bit of time to get that online. In the meantime, damage continues to be done. A failed wall attempt to defend by Leenock. Wham's army has been sort of reduced in numbers, but behind this, he can easily add in trebuchets and start to continue to blitz through that base.
Oh, some beautiful volleys from the nest of bees out there. You gotta be cautious with all those infantry units out there. Most of those are Janissaries. Actually, no, most of them are crossbows.
No,
only a few Janissaries in the body.
Yeah. And this heal, don't be deceived, folks. The number is not that good. That's a +1/+1/+1 coming out from the imams. The nest of bees could wipe you out, but nice move there. State instead dives towards the knobs to make sure they do not have the range to attack.
We have to keep in mind, though, right now, Kasva is not putting anything on the playing field or not really contributing anything to these fights. He's building up a large mass of knights. So, yeah, Leenock's team is sort of holding
against 2 players.
Yes. And the third one is about to come online. 30 knights with royal bloodlines about to hit the field, and you won't be able to match their mobility, nor will you be able to match their combat prowess.
And they're just going to wipe you out in the blink of the eyes. That's the problem you've got. They can even hang around and start torching down the buildings as well. It does look pretty grim right now for Kimchi jjigae. If anyone's just tuning in, 3 Beavers and a Turkey already on match point. Of course, Kimchi jjigae will not be eliminated from the tournament if they lose here, but they will be on the ropes trying to survive tomorrow. It's such a big map to cover still. You can see the commitment coming in. Kasva finally arrives to assist Wham. Poppypool, yeah, he's still playing Interceptor at the moment. We're about to see the next wave coming in, though. You can see that Fire Lance account about to exceed 40, at which stage he can easily burn through all that remains.
Yeah, I feel like it's gonna be a killing blow on State. Right now, they are pulling everything that Leenock's team has to Leenock's base with those knights, with the longbows. And the moment they see those commit, you're going to send in the Fire Lancers to State's base. There's gonna be nothing there to defend it. You level the base, you finish the game.
Oh, Leenock, he has to be feeling at the state of this game as it's sort of over. Wait a second, that's the name of his teammates. Maybe if he calls them loud enough, they'll come to assist. They're on the way in now, but honestly, they needed to be here before all 3 members of 3 Beavers and a Turkey had arrived. Now that they are all here, they have a raw numerical and quality advantage over the defenders. Not something easy to defend, and not much left at Leenock's base to defend at this rate.
Yeah, it's so difficult now. It's an Imperial Age Chinese player. You have these Castle Age plus units, the Royal Bloodlines Knights for French, and then the Lidakor as well from the English. This is just a flood that they might not be able to stop.
I mean, they're about ready to flop dead at this stage. They start flooding into the Abbasid base next, and the Abbasid base is just not really pushing enough troops out to even mount a defense, it feels like. Any attempt to do so always seems to fall flat because he gets jumped ahead of the timing. The Lombos here, even the Spearman can't counter out. Just so many knights from Kasva. At this rate, he could easily exceed 60 knights in the field.
That's exactly what he has to do. He shouldn't even be thinking about Imperial Age. It's all the Castle Age Knight Flood. These units are way better than ordinary Castle Age units. Very tanky, very powerful, high mobility. And it's showing on the battlefield. Plus, of course, let's not forget about the massive ball of infantry that the English player now has. 40 plus longbows, 30 men-at-arms, a bunch of spearmen. This is just a ball that's rolling down hills. Impossible to stop.
I mean, I don't think it's the balls rolling downfield. It feels like they've just booted Kimchi jjigae down the field, and there's jagged with rocks and a long way to the bottom. And every time they think they've reached the bottom, it just gets worse. Villagers on the backside are being fully exposed by Kasva's army. Now North Wrap will come in, and as soon as they see the Fire Lancers, they say, I've seen this story before, and I refuse to experience it any longer. GG will get called. It is a day chocked full of 2-0s, and the final series plays out no different.
What a performance really here by 3 Beavers and a Turkey. Both in game number 1 and game number 2, they have looked very much dominant. And there was a lot of talk about this team being one of the premier teams of this event, one of the teams that are candidates to win the whole thing. I mean, they have shown exceptional gameplay today. Love the chemistry. I love this rapid escalation, rapid kind of step-by-step escalation that they have. There's always 1 or 2 players covering for a third to take that next step, whether that's Castle Age for the Chinese player or Imperial Age later on, or whether that's allowing Kasva to go greedy with multiple town centers. They always set up things in a way, and they always do just enough aggression to set one of their players up to make that next step, which puts them ahead compared to their opponents. That's
the beautiful thing, right? It's the whole idea of the passing the baton, the synchronicity. You can't just all do the same thing. You need to make sure you're balancing your eco and your aggression. And I think that's something we've sort of done remarkably well here, is the way that both Wham and Kasva essentially play buffer boy in the early game to create that space for Poppypool. And the Chinese will lean into that any day of the week. They will exploit that fully. And when they reach their timing, they are capable of causing enough anarchy and pain to cover their teammates back. What I love is the fact that they didn't even double dip. I've seen formats for this where the Chinese player covers 2 players being greedy. Instead, you saw Wham be kind of greedy first, and then they allowed Kasva afterwards. That balance was key here. It allowed the 3 Beavers and Turkey to take the lead, take the series, and take a dominant showing here. I mean, it's been a day of dominance anyway.